Welcome to Two Souls Podcast, a podcast to shift, impact, empower, and disrupt your consciousness, ultimately allowing you to thrive in this human experience. Now here are your hosts, Amber Megenhauser and Angela Blaha. Welcome everyone to Two Souls Podcast. We're so thankful that you are here. If you love what we do, please share. All right. Hey, Amber, how are you today?
Awesome. How are you?
Fantastic. What do we get to explore today?
Today, I thought we would talk a little bit about how important it is to disrupt your own energy.
This is something that we don't ever think about, is it?
No,
But
not at all.
Yeah. It's like, what? Disrupt my energy? Why would I want to do that, right? So it's really important to disrupt your own energy, especially when you are stuck or feeling stuck, or if you are, if you have a pattern that you just don't like anymore, or it's not working for you any longer, and you just really need a change, but you don't really know, you don't really want to take the really slow route of, like taking, a year to make that change. You just really want to make a change and then like make it happen right away. The easiest way to do that is to disrupt yourself. Disruption is kind of a word that seems a bit violent or a bit, like I see a volcano when I hear disruption. It doesn't have to be like that kind of energy. It just means that you need to make a big enough impact in what you do and the pattern that you have, make a big enough change, new action. It's really about the action step that disrupts energy. Make a big enough action step that you don't go back to the old way. So, Amber, when in your life have you disrupted your own energy?
I actually do it a lot. And this is just like a simple something that I do just to try to not have things the same. So would this be a good example too? Like when I get up in the morning, I never do things the same. I always try to change it up so that way I don't have just okay, I'm going to hurry up and get in the shower, then I'm going to get ready, then I'm going to walk my dog, whatever it is. Some days I will get up and go outside with the dog, or I do things in a different order so that way everything is not the same. Is that a good thing as far as disrupting your energy?
Yeah, that keeps, we become very ritualistic people. And when we do these small kinds of activities to sort of like mix things up, we don't get quite so bored with life. And it keeps the energy flowing, right? When we do things in a different pattern. So yes, those are nice, small, like easy kinds of disruptions that keep energy flowing, moving throughout our systems. So I know that you have done big disruptions, like going on trips, right? Like transformational retreats when, years ago when I used to do them. It's not years ago, but it feels like it's years ago. Those would be big disruptions because we would be not in our safe place of our home. We would most likely be around people that we didn't know or didn't know, we knew of them, but we didn't know them. They would be experiences, visiting foreign lands or, doing healing rituals maybe that were different than what we've experienced before. Those kinds of things are big disruptive energy points where our attention is to go and to transform or to change something or to experience something totally different. Those are big disruption action points. So it's very important, though, that we do this kind of on a regular basis because otherwise we just become robotic, very robotic.
So, disrupting your energy as far as let's just use a retreat, for example. Going to something like a retreat where it totally disrupts your energy and changes, and you also have to have a different experience in your life for your mind to kind of understand that the energy has shifted.
Yeah, that's the whole point, is to disrupt your mind, right? Because the mind, it just wants to have a pattern. I mean, it doesn't want to have to do any work to change. It doesn't want to have to think differently. It doesn't want to have to believe differently. Your emotions don't, you don't want to have to experience any other emotions, right? And so it becomes very locked in, I want to say, very enslaved to um, the current belief systems or the current thought forms or the current emotions. And so when you do these kinds of disruptions purposefully, your intent should be to disrupt all of that, to come out a different person, to come out with a whole different mindset, with a whole different belief system, with shattered. Like your real intent is to shatter what you think you know. And so, yes, when we go and we do these kinds of things and we do it purposefully, that, that should be part of the purpose, is to shatter what you already think you know. That then it's real easy to take a new action step. Otherwise, we work at the whole process backwards, and try to take an action step, but the mind doesn't change. If we try to take a new action step and we don't have any experience around it whatsoever, but we just, like, I don't know, what would be something that you're working towards right now that we could use as an example? Like, what is it that you want to change in your life?
Um, we could actually use the shaman classes I'm taking as an example. The
Okay.
minute I took those classes, I've taken a couple of them now. And every time I do, it disrupts all the energy. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
actually was so drastic the first time, I almost couldn't wrap my mind around it. And then I sat with everything that I had learned and what the journeys we did and the things that came in, and I was just like mind blown. And so after I took that class, it totally changed everything within me because my awareness grew on so many different levels.
Yes. So you had all the bodies, right, in a class. When we take a class, they generally, in your class, there's knowledge, right? So that gives the mind something to wrap itself around. There's always an emotion that comes with that, like, oh, I'm here to change. You're really excited and blah blah blah, and then you carry that excitement with you for a while. And then if you have a class that has an experience, like a shaman class where you're actually journeying and, bringing back information, that's the experience. That's the action step. Well, then when you're done with that, or that's the experience, it's not really, it could be an action, just sort of depends on the level. Anyway, what happens then after you have that initial experience is the action towards, I'm going to be a shaman, or I'm going to remember my shaman self. Even if I'm not going to be a shaman for the public world, I'm a shaman for myself. That action, you have to continue on that action. Like, you can't just have that experience once and then have it be done. That's a disruption in your energy, but it's the action of doing it and practicing and practicing and practicing and becoming that action afterwards that literally makes the change. See, the class is the original disruption, but then if you really want the lasting change, you have to practice and become. Otherwise, it's just a disruption, but then you go back to your old patterns.
So after this disruption, you actually have to have multiple steps in order to stay in that energy, or you completely go back.
Well, it depends on the person, but most of the time, yes. I mean, we're so ingrained in our old patterns that we will we'll have experiences, it doesn't mean that we're going to make the changes because of that experience. But that disruption is what sort of opens a gateway, I want to say, into, wait, maybe I should become this now. Maybe, it gives you an opportunity for something totally different in your life. So even if you choose not to follow that disruption and, do the practice and then become that, even if you choose not to do that, you still disrupted your energy, which opens up even more possibilities. It opens up even more um, opportunities for change without disruptions every single day. Disruptions. I do daily disruptions if I can. Without that, you're just stagnant. That's where we get like really lost in our own energy, and we feel like we're so stuck. We're just like in the mud, and it's because we're not disrupting ourselves. We're just hanging out in the same old patterns. For some people, hanging out in
Go
the same
ahead.
old patterns is like that's their life purpose, right? But for some people who are here for growth and
Yeah.
expansion and constant change, then that stuck feeling is worse than anything else in the world.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So when you disrupt your energy, I think just saying those words, a lot of people look at it as, why would I want to disrupt everything when everything's fine? But I think what people don't realize is by disrupting your energy, you open up to so many possibilities, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
that before you disrupt it, you had no awareness of a different possibility.
Right, exactly. Exactly, because you're just in the same, you're just walking the same path, exactly the same every single day. And there's no opportunities, there's no like differentiation, like you're just, it's the same thing over and over.
I think one of the things that people have a hard time understanding too is that disruptions come into our lives and they will completely flip your world upside down. But, and when you're in that moment, you feel like, what the heck is happening? What am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
But if you fast forward to like a couple months and actually look back at that situation, the situation you thought was going to make or break you, and it was, you think about it as like a negative disruption. But when you actually go forward and then look back at it, you actually realize that that disruption was probably the best thing that ever happened to you.
Yes. One way, or that's the one thing I think that we overlook is if we aren't in constant, I mean, our purpose for humanity here is to be in constant growth, constant expansion, constantly finding new energies of the soul self, right? Bringing those in and being that. If we aren't making those progressive movements throughout our life, then life will disrupt you. And it will disrupt you in a way that is very catastrophic for some. And it will push you off the edge. And that's when we have, these big kinds of events in our life, these big traumatic kinds of events that just catapult us into something else. So it's, in my opinion, having done both, it's better for me when I'm making slow, progressive disruptions on a regular basis.
I completely agree. About a year ago, I actually went through that huge disruptive energy that it just happened. And it threw me for a loop. I wasn't prepared for it. I was not expecting it. And when it happened, I was really mad about it. And I couldn't understand why it was happening. But a couple months later, I sat with it and I'm like, okay, like this happened for a reason. I had no idea what the reason was, but it actually was probably one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And I understand that now, but I couldn't see it when I was completely in it. So I
Mhm.
get that when big things like that happen, it actually kind of shuts you down. Where if you disrupt it every day a little bit at a time, you're so much healthier and you can stay on that common ground instead of having your highs and your lows.
Yeah. So when we have those kinds of giant disruptions in our lives, they do one of two things. They either catapult you forward and you're just like, what the heck? Or it's so traumatic that it stagnates you and it puts you down into depression and into a hole, right? So, and depending upon
Yeah.
if you have the resources and the support to either move out of the hole or to understand the catapult, right? Either way, those big stressors, they either move you in giant shifts, quantum leaps, or they hold you back even further. The point is they're unintentional and they just happen out of the blue, right? If you're intentionally disrupting your energy though on a semi-regular basis, maybe it's just once a year, or maybe it's once every 3 months or whatever it is. If you're working through, or if you're actually making these action steps and making them intentional, then the traumatic emotional distress doesn't come with it because you're expecting it. So then we don't have to heal trauma, after the event. We're just moving through the process. It's much easier way for humanity to expand and to grow. But we don't have this sort of understanding of what it takes to literally disrupt our energy on a regular basis. We don't really want to disrupt our energy. That's the whole point, is we've been trained that, disruptions, these traumatic events are horrific. Well, they are if you're not intentional about them, or they can be.
Yeah.
But yeah, hindsight is
So what
2020,
is
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
What is a great simple way for people to practice disrupting their energy on a daily basis?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, doing small routine things like changing up your routine, that disrupts the energy, but it also keeps a flow. That's a real easy way to not have any trauma, not have any kind of detrimental kinds of effects, but you can feel the flow, right? Like you can feel that there's something different. So that sort of prepares your body, it prepares your mind, it prepares your emotions. Um, then, moving up something bigger, like do something that you've never, ever, ever done before. Like never done before. Like, I don't know, take an art class, or, go skiing, or, I don't know, whatever it is, you do it, right? Go to somebody's house and I don't know, do an event with them some way, somehow. If you want to go bigger, do a retreat or take a class. Anything that you've not done before. That's the whole thing of it, is you don't want to have something that is similar. When we do things that are similar but yet a little bit different, there's an easing into it. But if you have a real strong intention, then the disruption will come. But if you're doing it and you don't have a strong intention, and you're just doing it because it feels like a disruption, but maybe it's not really a disruption, then you won't have the high that you get from a disruption. Because even if it's a traumatic disruption, there's still a high component that comes, right? Like there's a huge disruption in your mind and your emotions,
Yes.
in your physical body. It creates a high. So you want something that's going to create this sort of high, high feeling, high emotion, high, like, oh my God, what do I do now? You want that kind of sense about it so that it disrupts your patterns. So do something you've not done
That
before.
makes a lot of As you're talking about this, I could feel like how high my energy got when we did the Numinous retreat, because that was such an amazing disruptor that I can't even explain the feeling of it. It was so amazing.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
definitely doing something different that you have never done. And, as you're talking about this, the disrupting things is it actually kind of goes back to one of the basic steps on this journey, which is awareness.
Hmm.
Because the more your awareness grows, it just takes you to a whole nother level.
Yes. Well, and then you want to have disruptions on a regular basis. Once you start on your journey of self improvement, self growth, self expansion, like you just want that all the time. It becomes like, I, I don't know if it's really an addiction, but it's like it becomes a part of who you really like want to be. You want to explore yourself, even if you do have emotional days, even if you do have patterns that you need to
Yes.
break, even if you do have thought forms that are like, oh my God, why do I believe this? Right? Like at that point, it becomes, yeah, what else can I break down within me? Right? Like what else can I feel here? Because now I'm on this path of 100% self exploration, and it's not fearful any longer. It's more blissful. And it's like, oh man, look at this. This is how I feel today. Look at this, Look at this fear. Why do I have this fear? I don't have this fear anymore. Wait, whose is this? Right? And you become very
Yeah.
like instigative in yourself. Instead of,
Yeah.
thinking about yourself as being, oh gosh, I don't want to feel that, or, I don't want to do that, or any, that downward spiral kind of energy. It's like, wait, I get to explore this today, and I'm going to be intentional about it. That's
It's
very
such a blissful
empowering.
feeling that you crave it.
Yes,
Yes.
because you become empowered. The more empowered you are, the more empowered you want
Yep.
to become.
Absolutely. On the flip side of it, so if somebody has such a dramatic disruption that it actually kind of sends you backwards, what is something really great to practice so you don't go backwards with it and it's a positive disruption rather than feeling sorry for yourself that this happened to you?
Well, meditation, of course, because meditation gives you answers that you probably never ever would have thought of before. Even though meditation is primarily to relieve the body, when the body is stress free and it's relieved, information comes in, right? And so
Yeah.
meditation, a journaling practice, I want to say, because once things come into you and writing things down, like doing a free dump or, like a dumping of the mind kind of journaling, sometimes provides you with a bunch of information. So that those are
Yeah.
two things that I highly recommend. Getting support, hiring a coach, or hiring someone who's been through that court kind of process. We all need help and we all need support these days, and hiring someone to help you work through that process, like they can give you the keys and the tools for future, right? So what are some things that
Absolutely.
you've done, Amber?
Well, I definitely had one of the best coaches of all time. Angela has helped me on so many levels, and she has been an amazing coach. So I don't know how I would have got through any of this without all your amazingness. Um, but I also worked with meditation too, and when the journaling thing, when you do a brain dump like that, it the things that come out on the paper, you're just like, where the heck did this come from? And it will be the most weird random stuff, but man, they are good nuggets.
Yeah, exactly.
It helps you understand what you need to do in a weird
Mm-hmm.
way. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the questions you have will literally come out on the paper, and you have no idea where they even came from, or it's just your intuition talking. It's not your mind trying to tell you what to do. It's like I almost can't even explain what like comes out of that journaling because it's so unique.
Yes. Yeah. Another thing that you can do to like move energy throughout you or move emotions is to use water. Um, Water is one of the most
Mm,
transformative elements that we have. And so, and it kind of depends on your who you are, but water and fire are two of the most transformative elements, of course. So, do a hot soak or do it a
absolutely.
yeah, go sit by the river, by water, a lake or something, and ask the water to like literally move the energy for you. Water, fire, yeah, use them to your advantage as much as you can.
I definitely did that. Water is, I can do about anything with water. And if you know how to use your intentions to get, I don't want to say get what you want because it kind of sounds like a control thing, but how to release the things you need to release,
Hmm.
man, water, I use water every single day to help me with that. And if I ever need to release any type of thing, or, disruptions come in and you are stressing yourself out about what is happening and you don't even realize it, I'm telling
Hmm.
you, take a hot shower and just stand in there. And it is the most rewarding feeling when you like visualize and physically wash everything off of you that serves you no purpose. You are lighter, your mind is clear, and you feel like a whole different person the minute you step out of the shower.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, and I know that you use oils as well, so I'm sure that those help.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Actually, that's part of my process is if I am going through like something that I need to release from, um, we've talked about this. I've had energy stuck in my back before and I've used it for that. And also, if I have any type of headache, migraine, and I know I am taking on energy that is not mine, that is how I release from it. I'll go through a process. And I kind of created my own process with certain oils that are what I like to use and they work for me. And I'll go through this process and then I will usually meditate afterwards to see what comes in. And then I'll jump in the shower and rinse everything off of me that I don't need. And it's my game changer for life because
Hmm.
it is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The one thing that I want to say about disruptive energy is when we practice it, right, and we're very intentional about disrupting our energies to open ourselves up to infinite possibilities and other potentials. Um, Once that happens, and once there needs to be a wholeness that is brought into this energy, right? So the mind has to understand what's happening. The emotions have to be on board, and you have to allow yourself to experience your emotions. There might be a physical change in the body that actually happens. It could be a detox kind of a symptom, or it could just be, a feeling of freedom. And then the soul, like the spirit, has to like there's information that comes with that as well. And so you really need to have a mindset, I want to say, that encompasses a holistic way of changing, a holistic way of expanding, a whole like you want to bring it all together. Otherwise, there's a fragmentation that happens or a separation that happens, and the mind doesn't either understand or you don't let yourself, experience your emotions, and your emotions get stuck, or the physical body, like it holds itself, it holds the disruptive energy, but it doesn't process the disruptive energy. So when you're doing this, like really come from that holistic kind of perspective of the mind needs to understand, like with your shaman classes, right? Like the mind needed to understand, so they give you
Yeah.
information. The experience was, you had the experience, which, the emotions probably came a little bit later, because it's like, wait, I need to integrate all of this information. I need to experience, you know. And so that's probably why meditation and journaling and, water and whatever other tool that you have in your toolbox, using those tools to bring everything together, then it can be complete. Then you can move on
Absolutely.
to the next one. Yeah.
I think one thing you said stood out too is it's all about the intention. Before I do any type of ritual I have created for whatever I need, I have very specific intentions before I start
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Because it will completely change the outcome if you have the intention set.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And if your,
Yes.
intentions need to be very concise. They don't need to be wordy. They don't need to be like elusive. You want a very concise intention, one that
Yeah.
means something to you.
Yes.
Hmm.
Sometimes when you do set your intentions and you use too many words, it actually limits you.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was a great conversation today.
Yes, it was. We would like to thank everyone for joining us. If you have any type of question or would like to reach out to Angela or I want some more information on something, please feel free to get a hold of one of us. We would love to help any way that we can. Until next time, from our soul to yours, have a super fantastic day.